Welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing something I have just learned about and have not yet tried myself, which is overwintering our pepper plants. We got a really good harvest on our peppers this year. Everything was super late. The spring was really cold, and to make up for that, we're actually getting a really warm start to fall. It's mid-October right now, and it's like probably pushing 15, 17 degrees. I don't even really need to be wearing a hoodie, but it's new and we all know how that goes, so I wanted to wear it. But it is so warm right now, I could literally be in shorts and a t-shirt. It's gorgeous. So our peppers were all harvested about a week ago, which was Thanksgiving weekend for Canada, which is October 10th. I honestly could have left them in the ground like a week longer, but I didn't, because the weather initially said we were supposed to be flirting with freezing after Thanksgiving. So I took them all out on the Monday evening, and now like the weather is like lows of 5 degrees at night and like highs of 19 during the day. So I honestly could have left them in the ground, but it's not a big deal because the peppers are coloring up really nicely in our laundry room. So I'm happy with that. I'm probably going to process all the rest of the jalapenos and the habaneros next weekend to do some more cowboy candy, because we're already obsessed with that. Oh, hi chickens. We surrendered our garden to the chickens. Bentley, don't chase the chicken. We surrendered our garden to the chickens because it's essentially done. There's nothing left in here. I have a couple onions over there, and other than that, it's over. So the chickens are just loving running around, eating the bugs, and consuming the rest of the plants, which is great. Which is another reason why I kind of want to get the peppers out of here. So I don't want them decimated by the chickens. They don't show a lot of interest in them, but it's just time. It's time to get them out. So we are going to overwinter 4 pepper plants. I probably have 9 or 10 plants altogether, but I'm just going to choose a select few and give this a try. I don't want to have a ton of plants in my living room over the winter if it's not going to work. So the reason why you do this is so that next spring you can start with mature plants instead of starting from seed. So that way I can actually put mature pepper plants in the ground in May or June, and then they're already potentially producing, you know, July, early August, instead of really producing like September in our region. So I'm excited to give that a try. Bell pepper seeds, for whatever reason, are like super hard to find. So I bought mature pepper plants from the store and planted them for bell peppers. So I'm gonna do 2 bell pepper plants because I really want to keep those if possible. I'm gonna choose 1 jalapeno plant, probably the biggest, and then 1 habanero plant. And so we're just gonna do the 4. And yeah, I'll kind of take you in the process. Essentially, we're going to pull them out of the ground. We're going to be really gentle with the roots, rinse them off, and then we will repot them in these smaller plants that we will then put inside. You do have to do different potting mix. You can't just take dirt from your garden. Essentially, what you want to mitigate is any pest control from outside to inside. If there's any sort of larva or any eggs in the root systems, the plant themselves, that's what you're wanting to take off or get rid of, so that when they go inside, they're more protective and have a better opportunity at succeeding. So that's what we're gonna do. There are a couple steps that I'll just point out as we go, but for now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a pitchfork and just loosen the plants out of the ground that I want to keep. And because we have kind of raised mounded garden beds, it's going to be a little bit easier. If you don't have that, you need to kind of dig a wider berth around your plant and then kind of go under and gently pull it up. So if I botch a plant or 2, I have a couple backups because I'm only going to be doing 4 of these. But let's get started. I think it was maybe a bit harsh on that one. I think we're supposed to have a lot more of a root system than that. I'm going to pull out the rest of the pepper plants and see if I can't do a better job of this. Essentially, I see a couple of the bigger root stems are broken. These ones actually don't look that bad. See that? That's a pretty nice, healthy root system there. It almost looks like your lungs, really. All the little tree branches in your lungs. It doesn't look too bad, but I would like a little bit of a healthier root bulb. I think that was just more my fault. I think I just didn't give it enough birth. So we'll put this one aside. I'm going to do the other ones and see if I can't do a better job here. We got a couple of peppers hiding here that I missed on harvest. So get that couple that we missed. So put those aside. I think what I'm noticing here is that these plants are just way more hardier than I give them credit. The roots actually go down really quite deep, and I'm just trying to be really mindful of that. I've actually already broken some root stems on this one, and I've gone down way further. Oh, so I'm just digging under what I've dug from here, and I can see that I'm still breaking some root stems off. But now that sort of some of those bigger roots are exposed, I'm just digging around them with my hands just to loosen them out, because that's really going to be the life of your plant. We're going to be pruning this plant back a lot, and so the roots are what's going to be keeping it alive over the winter. So you really want as much of that root system as possible. I'll bring it a little closer and show you what I'm doing. So as you can see, we've exposed a lot of the roots there. And then you can kind of see that they're ending here. This one was actually quite long and came out to the side. But I'm just kind of putting my hand in underneath and gently kind of sweeping away to see if we can't loosen that up a little more. So you can see we've got like pretty healthy root system here, and that's what we're trying to save in this process. I did break off another stem here. My digging dog is being very attentive. He wants to get in there so bad. Do you want to dig? You wanting to go digging? So I'm just trying to be very gentle as I sort of sweep under the root system and get that up. And just couldn't help himself. Just had to dig. Mom's in the garden digging. Why can't I be digging? So we'll just carry on here and get this plant out as softly as we can. I still heard a lot of root systems break on that one, but that one is looking better than the last one. See, this is more what I'm wanting to keep as we try to save this thing. A lot of these roots are broken now, so I'm wondering if that's going to work with broken roots, because you really want this to be almost as tall as the plant itself. And obviously I'm just not managing to achieve that here. I'm wondering if the dirt was wet, if I'd be getting by a little bit better. Obviously that's going to make the dirt a little softer. We have actually reached drought conditions in our area, so we're not getting a lot of rain, and obviously with the garden being dormant now, we've turned the watering system off. So I think the hard dirt is not working in my favor right now. Third time may have been the charm here. That's actually looking way nicer. I definitely had to go a long way around the plant to get that uprooted, but this is actually the plant I wasn't gonna keep. But now, just with how much root system came up, I think this one's obviously gonna have to be one of the main ones that I keep. So those are the bells. I'm gonna pause the video, do a habanero and a jalapeno, and then I will meet you back up here when we're ready to repot. I'm pretty happy with how the habanero plant turned out. There's a really healthy root base on that I was able to get out. So I have the most hope for this one. Next thing we're going to do is lightly rinse off all these leaves just to eradicate all those little bits of dirt in there and everything that you can see. And then we're going to prune these back. I might even just do it with our sickle, because that has sort of the most immediate and quickest result, and you don't want to put the plant into shock by bending and not breaking. You really want it to be a clean break. So let's get at this. Okay, this is the finished product. The reason why you want to rinse it off like that is because you don't want any of the outside dirt coming inside. And that's just in case there's any larva eggs or insect eggs that have been planted in the root system over the summer. You don't want those eggs obviously hatching and then eating your plant inside and killing it. That would defeat the purpose of trying to get them to overwinter. So there is a process that you're supposed to do that I'm not doing because I couldn't find the oil. You're supposed to put a little bit of neem oil in some water and soak these for a little bit, the root systems and the tops of them, again, just to clean off any insects that may have attached themselves to the plant. I could not find neem oil anywhere, and it might not even be purchasable in Canada. I got this process off the Pepper Geek YouTube channel, so you can look up his channel for how to overwinter pepper plants, and he talks about it. But obviously they're in the States and I'm in Canada, and when I looked it up and purchased neem oil at Canadian Tire, apparently the federal government told Canadian Tire to stop selling neem oil. So I don't know what that's about, but I couldn't find the recommended oil to soak the plants, so we're kind of skipping that step. I hope it doesn't ruin the overall finished product of what we're doing here. The next stage is to trim these guys down. So I'm going to go find either some pruning shears or the sickles so that we can get that next step done. Okay, up close and personal. We're going to start with the jalapeno plant. So you can actually get rid of these littler branches here. Those aren't going to be wanted. These are more just leaves. And essentially what you're doing is you want to choose a really hardy branch to work off of, so we can actually choose this main stem here. We can keep these two, but it's not vital. Because this is my first time doing this, I'm more inclined to keep them just because I want success and I feel like keeping more branches is more successful. I could actually be completely wrong in that, but we're going to give it a try anyway. So obviously all the leaves, these smaller branches can all come off. And when it comes to the branches, you really want to go right after that little node. So we can leave the nodes on, but we're going to take the branch itself off. This actually still has some tiny jalapenos on it. I'm kind of trying to decide as I go what I want to keep and what I want to take off. This one actually looks pretty obvious, so let's do this one first. So you can see here that we've got a nice branch coming up and then another branch that splits off into a Y. So that right there is what you'll be looking at pruning. Now you can prune it here, and right here, or we could actually keep the Y stem and prune right after that next node, which is I think what I'm going to do with this one. So we've got the Y, a node, a split off, and then a node up here, and we're going to trim just above that node. Just like that. So that one would be considered done. I think I am going to keep this one as well and then just trim above these nodes right there. So this is going to look very bare and even potentially dead over the winter, but it's not, because we've got the root system that we're really preserving, and that root system is going to keep these branches alive. This one doesn't really split off. It's more just a really tall branch that just comes all the way up here, and again we've got some tiny jalapenos up here still. I think I'm going to take it down to this first node. I could split it off all the way up here, but from what the Pepper Geek did, he did keep his pretty small, so I'm just going to trim it right off right there. This one does split into a nice Y kind of right up here. I don't see any nodes prior to that, so we could trim it off right at the base, or we could trim it off after the nodes at the Y, which is what I'm going to do. The plant is getting very light. These were actually quite heavy. This right here, obviously, ooh, there's a spider. See, that right there is why you would want to soak this in neem oil, which I'm not doing, but those are the kind of pests you want to get rid of. This obviously is going to be your biggest kind of main branch right here, and it splits off nicely. We trimmed that one and it splits off nicely again right here. We could split it here, or we could split it up here. Again, I think because this is the first time I'm doing this, I'm just going to keep the one extra node on and not go too small. So instead of pruning it here, I'm going to prune it up here. Same with this guy. that's done. That's what we want it to look like. We've got our root system down here, which actually looks gorgeous. It's crazy how, like, now that I'm seeing all the root systems exposed of all three varieties, the bell peppers, the jalapenos, and the habaneros, like they're it's not just their leaves and their branches are different, like their root systems actually look a little bit different, which is kind of crazy to me. So this is the jalapeno root system, and in comparison, this is the bell pepper root system. Like, just looks very different than, say, that. I don't know. I don't know if that's like common, or if I'm just sort of making that if I'm just noticing that myself, but it's just very interesting. The next thing we're going to do, I want to get this guy in dirt right away. This is a very traumatic thing for a plant to go through, so we want it potted quickly, I would say. And when we're potting it, we're going to actually be very gentle of the roots and try not to anger them any further. You do want to buy like a new potting mix. You don't want to use old potting mix, again, because of the factor of there could be larvae or bugs in it. I'm just putting like 2 inches in the bottom there. And then we're just going to very, very gently put this in. I actually want it to sit kind of like a little loose in there, and then I'm actually going to just, you know, disperse the dirt around the roots instead of shoving the plant in and then putting a whole bunch of dirt on top. So we're actually going to be quite gentle about this here. Essentially what we're doing is letting the roots kind of grab the dirt naturally as the dirt goes in. We want this to feel like the roots have already been in here and established themselves. So you want it to be nice and loose. And that's already starting to hold itself up on its own after just a couple shovelfuls. This will compact down as we water it and such, so I want it to stay nice and loose, nice and airy. We're just putting enough dirt in to support that root system and support the plants. Now, I do know myself well, and I know I'm going to forget which one this is once they're all done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of the tiny jalapenos from the plant and just pop it in the dirt there so I remember that this one's jalapeno. On to the bells. Always losing tools. Again, ooh, that one actually broke off. You can just start by taking off all the very tiny branches, the ones you know you're not really going to be using. Just so you can actually get a view of the plant and the direction you want to take it as far as pruning it. This stem actually doesn't look super healthy. So I'm actually just going to go ahead, take that whole thing off right away. I feel like this branch as well I'm going to take off. I'm going to focus more on these sort of 2 and 3 up here. I don't know that there's a ton of rhyme and reason about this. I think a lot of it is just maybe sort of instinct as well, kind of what you feel looks good and healthy. Again, we've got a nice branch coming up here, and then we have these little side branches coming off. I think I'm going to get rid of the lower one. You could tell actually we had breakage that happened right there. So, I mean, you could opt to get rid of that and focus on these two. This one actually is looking a little weaker as it gets to the top. I think I'll keep this guy. And man, this is getting tough. There's a lot of branches on this. I actually noticed the habanero breaks off incredibly quickly to a ton of different directions, so that one actually might be the most confusing as far as pruning. I see another breakage here. I do remember that happening a lot in the summer as these were growing. They were just getting so heavy. I don't know if like cages would suffice if you really need to be caging peppers, but I did notice that the peppers were really struggling to hold their own weight. It could even just be that the plants weren't very mature. So that actually could be another benefit of overwintering, is that we'll have more resilient plants to actually hold the weight of the peppers next year. So I don't know, we'll see. I'm not super confident that this branch is actually going to produce next year because it did have a pretty decent breakage on it. But we'll see. This branch right here actually looks like our healthiest one, so if anything, this is the one that's probably going to be our big producer next year. I feel like I did that one a lot quicker. So that's going to be our first bell pepper. And again, you can really notice the difference in the stalk here compared to the jalapeno. It's quite different. So let's get this one in a pot. They kind of look like cactus, but we're almost done. I think I'm going to do the last two myself, and I'll catch up with you when we are all done, and we'll talk about how we're going to store these suckers. Okay, that's a wrap on getting our peppers ready for winter. This is the habanero, the jalapeno, and then we've got the two bells over here. So as far as storage goes, you should be putting these in a cool, dry place, and that should get sunlight. They do need sunlight. Even though they don't have leaves, they still require a bit of sunlight. So make sure they are somewhere that's going to be getting sunlight exposure. It doesn't have to be drastic, but even just like incandescent light or soft lighting or however that is, right? And then they do require watering, not a ton of watering, but obviously these are plants and they do still need to have those root systems stay alive. So I haven't fully decided where they're gonna go. Our house is not the biggest, but we'll find a spot for them. That's why I don't want to do too many, because we just don't have the space for it. Obviously if I had a greenhouse, then all of them would just go in the greenhouse for the whole of the winter. And the other thing is, because our weather is just so unbelievable right now, like, I mean, the ones in the garden are going to be fine for quite a while. So I think I'm even just going to keep these on the deck until we start getting to that point of freezing, because these guys can handle, you know, down to, I think even 5 degrees, 5 degrees, somewhere in there. So they'll be fine outside for a little while longer. I will label them so I know what is what, but to be honest with you, I am shocked at how identifiable these are without leaves or anything really to identify them. Like, the bell pepper stems are really quite bulgy, which reminds me of how big and bulgy a bell pepper is, and they have kind of like a brown streaking to them. Ironically, well, maybe not ironically because it's the plant, the stem looks exactly like the jalapenos we harvested. It has sort of this like purple streaking to it, and the jalapenos we harvested also have a bit of a purple streaking to it, which is just crazy. So this actually looks like the jalapeno plant, and they look like the jalapenos. And then the habanero plant is just crazy. It kind of just flowers out into this like beautiful like eruption of stems. So to be honest with you, they look like bell pepper plants, it looks like a jalapeno plant, and it looks like a habanero plant. So I will label them, but it blows my mind that it's not even really necessary. So thanks for watching this video, guys. This is how to overwinter pepper plants, or at least prep them for overwintering. I've never done this, so obviously we're gonna have to wait to find out if this works. I'll update you along the way if it's interesting or what have you, but really these guys are gonna stay dormant until the springtime and until we can get them back in the ground. So hopefully this works and we can start next year with some mature pepper plants. I hope you liked the video. Let me know what you think in the comments, and be sure to like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. It really helps us out being a new channel. And we'll catch you on the next one. Probably won't be 20 degrees next time I see you, but who knows? It's been a crazy warm fall. Take care, guys.